International Groningen.
International Groningen.
International Groningen.
Hello and welcome to International Groningen podcast. I'm Anastasija and today we're going to talk about building your career in Groningen and Northern Netherlands as an international. On my left I have Natalie, who is an international from Malaysia, and on my right I have Marjolein, who's an expert on building your career in the Northern Netherlands, starting from just a side job, maybe dishwashing job, whatever, going to internship and then building a full dream career in the Netherlands. Natalie, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name is Natalie. I'm from Malaysia. I'm 22 this year and I've been living in Groningen since 2020. Currently, I work in ABN AMRO within platforms and technology as my official title is called IT Content and Communications. I'm an intern there. I've been working for about 4 months now. I have a side job as a food critic at Ukrant.
What?
So I also do food reviews twice a month or something like that.
IT and food, it's all what Marjolein is also about.
All the things that I love, absolutely.
Okay, well, great match then.
Yeah.
I don't know how to build the bridge between IT and food and what I do, but I definitely love it. So my name is Marjolein and I'm the project lead at Make It in the North. And Make It in the North is a project that basically tries to make the gap between companies in the Northern Netherlands, so that's Groningen, Friesland and Drenthe, and internationals in the North as small as possible. So we basically, make the labor market more accessible to internationals and tell companies about the fact that there's so many internationals here who'd love to find work.
Yeah. And there's actually work also for internationals.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's growing. So the project is growing and the opportunities for internationals are growing as well.
Yeah. That's really like a big, I think, still a misconception because it's been different. Like when I came here, I think almost 12 years ago, I did a job interview for dishwasher job, and then they didn't accept me because I was an international. They were like, there will be a language barrier, like this washing the dishes, it's something very culturally sensitive, so we prefer a Dutch person. And now there's all kinds of companies, like IT companies, businesses, like a bank where you work, that are fighting for internationals. Come, share your talent with us. Is it also what you experience, that there's like enough job opportunities for internationals here?
I think, of course, it depends on the field you're in and what you're looking for. If we're talking about kind of like the student part-time jobs, I think, a lot of internationals easily can get those kinds of jobs. But within the corporate world, I do think it's a bit harder, especially in the North. Because most jobs, I think, do require you to speak Dutch.
Is it like this?
Yeah, that's absolutely true, which makes sense, right? Dutch is the primary language in this country. And so I think for the whole of the Netherlands, you'll see that most jobs and most industries still require Dutch, but we really see a growth, especially in a couple of industries where English is getting to be the common language more and more. And we're encouraging that. And we're especially looking at those industries where they have a lot of trouble finding people at all. We're like, look, there's quite a lot of internationals who are graduating here or who are coming along as a spouse with their partner who has found work here. And so for a lot of companies, some companies are like, you really need to speak Dutch, but many companies also just don't even know about the amount of internationals that are here who have the skills to fill in the positions that they cannot find people for right now. So there's also just an information gap. And as we're closing that gap, more and more opportunities grow. But it's definitely the case that not every job has positions in English in the Netherlands or in the North.
But it's getting much more open for that. It's the same as we say internationals, but you can't really say internationals because like 180, I think, nationalities in total. And the same goes for companies where like IT is super like, whatever, we want you to speak Python. We don't want you to speak English or Dutch.
Most important language.
Just speak. And for other things, like I work at the local government here at the city of Groningen together with Marjolein. Yeah. And I don't think we have any other internationals in our team.
The internationals that we have working at the local government also speak some Dutch.
Yeah. So it really depends per field. And the most international we get is Frisians mostly. That's that's the biggest international.
They speak a different language. So.
Yeah. Component. It's a very good.
More difficult one than English too. So
that's how international we go. But let's share based on your experience, let's share with other internationals, like, where do you start? So what did you study, and what was your first steps in building your career here? Like, did you have some student jobs? How did you find out about here? How did you come here? Why? What's the background?
Yeah, so I study communication and information science at
Here?
University of Groningen. And actually my very first job was a teaching assistant for a course called diversity management. I took that course like a year before, and I loved it. And the professor, Dr. Lee, it was the cutest, like so nice and so lovely. And I was like, I want to like work with her. So I just emailed her.
Are you Gen Z? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is something that a Gen Z would say, like, the professor was the cutest. We would not say that.
Really?
Yeah, but we want to make it accessible, the podcast, for everyone, so we keep a balance.
I'm the Gen Z, like, representative.
Professor was the cutest.
She was super cute. And yeah, there wasn't a job opening, but I emailed her and I was like, hey, I really enjoyed your course. Like, do you happen to want, like, a teaching assistant? And she was like, yeah, like we'll create like an opening for you. And I just sent my CV and motivation letter to like the department that's in charge of like these kind of student jobs in the university. Initially, they were like, well, actually, I don't think it's needed in the course. But after they read my motivation letter, where I did play the race card. I was like, it's a course called diversity management. Yeah. I'm from Malaysia, so I just feel like you should hire me. I basically said that. And it worked, and I got the job. And Excellent. It was really, I enjoyed it. And pro tip, the university pays really well.
Oh, okay.
The students, the student jobs.
Yeah. And for non-EUs, it's, I think, there's also a distinguish, like international students, there's non-EU and EU. It's a lot harder for us non-EUs out there, I think. We need a work permit to be able to work here. And the company we work for has to apply for that permit, which usually takes forever. But because the university is like an academic institution, the work permit goes through like super quick within like 2 days. Okay. So it's, I do recommend for non-EUs to maybe start with jobs within the university first, because they pay well and pretty easy.
Or a more established institution who already has these processes, like settled, and then they have so many internationals that they know the drill, like just go this, do this. But I hear like 2 takeaways from you, your experience. First of all, being proactive. I think this is also what you talk a lot to internationals about, and I think I don't want to like put people in the boxes, but I think I'm from Eastern Europe, I'm from Latvia, and also like people from Eastern Europe and more Asia, and they're less proactive than an average Dutch person, and we also don't expect that you have to like go for it and be proactive. So I think like, I send my motivation letter, that's it. If they don't call me, then they don't call me, they don't want me. But in the Dutch work culture, it's very normal to send them a reminder, call them again.
Oh, is that so?
This is a millennial way to say call, and this is a Gen Z.
I still do this, actually.
Okay. So,
nice.
Yeah. Marjolein told me about this the other day. But you have to be proactive, right?
I mean, of course, but I don't know if it's like a cultural difference or something, but in general, I think people who naturally are ambitious and want to make it far in their career, they naturally will be proactive. I don't know it's necessarily like like a Dutch versus non-Dutch situation.
I think it's quite a Dutch thing. What do you think? Being proactive and really going for it? Is it a Northern Dutch thing?
Well, I don't know about Northern Dutch. I agree that there's an introvert extrovert type of thing, and ambitions and not so ambitious going on as well. But what we do see is that in Dutch, we're kind of direct with the culture a lot of times, and that's often expressed in being more proactive or outgoing or doing things and saying things, which in some other cultures would not be said out loud so quickly or be done so quickly. So whenever I tell internationals, hey, you've applied for a job, you don't hear back, give them a call. They're like, no,
that used to be also like a biggest shock to me.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. Dutchies are cool with you calling, and it's not considered rude, but some people are worried that like, but they'll feel like I'm like harassing them or something, but it doesn't come across like that. So I think it's so cool that you from your own initiative already thought like, I like this professor, I like this topic, I want to do something with this, I'm going to just try and make a job. And that's exactly what we recommend internationals to do, because that's a way that you make opportunities, and it's a way that a lot of Dutch people kind of naturally make opportunities because they already have a big network. And if they tell their network, I'm looking for a student job and I like these kind of things, you know, they have a whole bunch of people who are hearing that, parents, teachers, wherever, who then, you know, they have their ears and their eyes open to make these kind of opportunities for people or to hear about them. And so as an international, you have to much more proactively be like, hey, you person, I would like to work with you. I'd like to do this type of thing. And it does work out. It doesn't always work out, but it can absolutely.
No, but you never know if you don't try, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, like really, like networking is so important, especially when you're in a country where, like, maybe if you're not fluent in Dutch, like that really is a setback. So you have to leverage what you can, like just go for it and create your own opportunities. Yeah. But in general, that's just like good career advice, not just like for internationals, I think.
Yeah, so that's a second takeaway. So you were not, the opportunity was not there, but you kind of created it for yourself. So internationals also can do this, maybe.
Yeah,
at
absolutely.
Some points.
What we tell a lot to internationals who, when they're studying, would like to stay after their studies is to do exactly this. To in the field, especially in the field that they want to work after their studies, email companies and say, I'd like to work for 8 hours a week, 12 hours a week for your company. Do you have any kind of project on the shelf that I could help you with? Yeah. Because of course you can
and I can do social media content creation a little bit like more specific, not just I'm looking for a job from cleaning to again Python programming, but really like with a specific range, but still with something more like to the point, so I'd say, right?
Yeah, and to really focus on why would you like to work for that company? What appeals to you about that company? And making clear that you'd love to stay afterwards. So you'd love to already learn about Dutch working culture. You'd already love to learn about like what do companies in this industry in the north of the Netherlands do? What does it look like? Yeah. And that already helps you build up your network. But in general, like regardless of whether you're international or not, it gives you a good view of, is this the type of work I'd like to do when I'm done with my studies? So working a student, like a typical student job in hospitality or whatever, is also great to just get in the money to support you. But if you are ambitious and you want to really get into a specific part of the job market, it's great to already try and make these opportunities for yourself to get a sneak peek. Is this industry something for me, or is this job something for me?
Yeah, for sure. And especially if you're even doing an internship or something super small, even volunteering. For example, if you want to work for more cultural sector or something, just volunteer or whatever, take the trash out at a festival, you'll right away see how it's organized, what is happening, how even today what we're filming, like you already see, this is how it's going. Do I want it? Do I not want it? But so like that was your first job. Did you also have like a classical student job? So this is quite academic, but did you also like deliver something or have something more?
Yeah, I did have one of those like minimum wage retail jobs. I'm not going to name where I worked at because my manager was really toxic and it was actually kind of traumatizing working there. That's the other thing.
But how did you find it to start with?
I found it because I think I saw an ad on Instagram or something like that, because I had already I shop there and I like the products there. So I think I followed their social media and I saw they were hiring. And I was just like, yeah, I guess I could use extra money. And I just applied and I got the job.
But that was not the best experience?
No, but I think this is also quite like a common thing where managers take advantage of international students and they treat them terribly. I've heard some occasions where they don't even pay them just to... Yeah.
And can you, if you're comfortable with this, share one example, and then maybe I could ask Marjolein, like, how can internationals protect themselves or stand for themselves in a specific situation? Do you have something to share? Or
this is not my personal experience, but I do know someone who went through this, where this person was non-EU, and as non-EU, you need a work permit to be able to work legally, right? And so this place had... asked this person to work like without a permit because they are already applied, but it takes a long time for the permit to come through if you're just like a restaurant or like a retail store. Yeah. And so the hours that this person worked illegally, they just the place refused to pay them. And there's nothing the student can do, right? Because it's illegal, technically.
Yeah. And eventually, do they hire them or not?
You often see a really high turnover in these places where they swap these international students every, I don't know, 5 months or so, because you're miserable working at these kind of toxic places, and they like to take advantage of students sometimes.
Are there any ways how internationals can protect themselves when they're doing like this typical, what we call in the Netherlands, horeca jobs or some delivery or something very like basic, I would say?
Yeah. So I mean, there's shitty employers everywhere.
Yep.
So that's an unfortunate way of things, and a major problem is that we need to make sure that internationals know what their rights are. So indeed, it sucks. Having worked without the work permit doesn't give you any legal grounds to be like, you still need to pay me.
Yeah.
So recommending and making sure that internationals know, like, hey, please don't work hours before you have that work permit, even though that employee or that employer can be very like putting a lot of pressure on you to start working.
Yeah.
Please don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Make sure that you have, a legal basis for any issues that might arise, because there's
and
some
legal basis is contract or what is it?
Yeah, having a contract and clear agreements within the contract about like the hours that you're supposed to work. And when it comes to rights as a worker in the Netherlands, they are pretty good, and a lot of internationals don't know that they have quite a lot of rights. So I recommend always having a good look. We also have information about that on Make It in the North about what your rights are. Yeah, awesome. We have a whole list of like an FAQ with like make sure that like you're not allowed to work more hours than this a day. You're entitled to a break, and this is how that works. And then when you have clear agreements like that on paper, you also have a clear case to go to your employer and to go like, hey, you're supposed to give me this. And if they then say no, and you make sure that you have that on paper, that you can go to free legal advice, for example, the juridisch loket, to try and help you solve that situation. What we also hear, unfortunately, of course, is about racism in the workplace, discrimination against people because they're international. And for this, there's also free places that can help you deal with the situation, because it sucks to be in that situation. You don't want to stay in that type of situation, but say you want to try and keep the job, you don't have to fix this by yourself. There are free places such as Discriminatie Meldpunt Groningen. They're also doing that in excellent. So they also help you out in English, and they basically try to resolve that issue between you and your employer.
Yeah. Okay. So we have 3 handy sources that you just named. I will list all of them. So first of all, on Make It in the North, you have this website or like a page where you do like a FAQ with for internationals who are working?
Specifically for internationals, and also specifically in hospitality, because we see there's a lot of international students there. So there's just a lot of people who don't know about their rights. So we want to make sure that they know.
And juridisch loket, it's something that sounds very Dutch. Did you know about it?
Yes, I did know about that.
Do you think an average international knows about it?
No, I don't think so, actually.
Could you explain in your own words what is juridisch loket? Because I think it took me like 7 years before I was like, oh, for free, somebody can give me legal advice as an international? Who? What?
Yeah, it's just like a number that you can call and ask for like legal advice within the Netherlands, right?
For free.
Yeah, I think most commonly people would call them to ask about like their rights as tenants, and because landlords especially are terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually how I found out about it. My Dutch friend was like, you should call this number maybe, because I had a terrible landlord as well. So
yeah, and they speak English usually?
They're able to speak English. And if somebody picks up the phone and they can't, they'll connect you to a colleague.
Yeah. And what kind of things can you go to juridisch loket to?
Anything that you're not sure about, like anything that's paperwork related. So a work contract or a rental contract, or anything where you're like, I don't know how this works in the Netherlands, what my rights are, what the laws are, especially if you have a landlord or an employer tell you, well, this is what the rules are, and you're like, that sounds sus. Or even if it doesn't sound sus to you, if you just don't know, you can call juridisch loket and they can advise you about is it true what they're claiming, and what are truly your rights, and what can you do in this situation to try and get justice.
Now we prepared you for the darkness, but let's also bring some light. How to find a student job? Like, what are the tips? Where somebody just arrived, and maybe I have a sister who's 11 years younger, and she's coming to Groningen. Of course, she has me, but you can imagine that there is somebody who's sitting on their couch now, somewhere back in their country, and they're like, yeah, I really want to go, and I'm already like, I'm going to study in Groningen, but I really need to work, and I really need a student job. What should they do?
Yeah, so we tackled the two type of jobs before, like I just need to get some money, so I'll work any job.
Let's first talk about this one.
Okay. So you gave a really good example where you saw a shop that you liked to shop in yourself, and they had an ad. You'll see that, especially in the cities, not everybody will be staying in the cities, but in the cities you'll see lots of retail and hospitality places have an ad in the window, and they just invite you to drop in and drop your CV, let them know what you're looking for, what you can offer them. So that's a really common way. Literally just walk around the city and see what places are looking for people. And on makeitinthenorth.nl, we also collect all the jobs that we know about where you can speak English and Dutch is not a requirement. And there you can say, I want to see part-time jobs. And then you can see all the part-time jobs that are there in the north of the Netherlands.
So can you also select per city or not necessarily?
Soon.
Okay. Let's see what people on the streets of Groningen think about this. Let's check it out.
International Groningen.
Do you have a job here in Groningen, or have you found a job?
Yeah, I do. I'm a teaching assistant for the university for my course.
All right, nice. And how long have you been doing this job?
I mean, it's kind of like it switches up per course, so you just do it for course, but like around a year total for everything.
All right, nice. And if you had tips for international students to find a similar job or any job in general in the Netherlands, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, for this job, just gotta study, guys. You gotta study. You gotta get the good grades. Otherwise, my other job was Flink. I was delivery. It's an easy job, and you don't really gotta speak Dutch. But yeah, not as nice. But you gotta get started somewhere.
All right, that's a nice one. We haven't heard that one yet. Do you have any tips for other international students on how they can find opportunities like this, or how you found it yourself?
Well, connections always help a lot. I know it sounds so stupid, but genuinely, the more people you know, the higher chance you have of finding something, especially if you advertise that you're looking for something. Nothing is just going to find you, and you have to persevere, because it's really hard in the beginning when you get a lot of no's and you're like, surely I'm never going to find anything. But you just have to apply to anything or everything you see.
Well, here there are a lot of jobs for international students where they don't require you to speak Dutch, which is, of course, like the main issue in a foreign country. A lot of my friends have had those jobs, also temporary job agencies that you can sign up online. I've looked into translation jobs, for example. So I think just asking around, looking it up online, because there's a lot of also student services for student jobs. And I think there are a lot of opportunities.
What are you doing here in Groningen?
Well, I'm currently working at the university for the career services as a student puller.
All right, and were you a student before this?
Yeah, I was a student here as well. I was studying business.
All right, nice. Well, thank you. And you already mentioned that you're working at the career services. Can you maybe give us some tips on how to find a job like this for other international students?
How to find a job like this?
Or it could be any job in general that could work for an international.
All right, well, generally, I would say learn the language. Okay. So being able to speak Dutch is always a plus. I would also say look at the career database at the university, because we have an extensive database for jobs available for students. So, yeah.
All right.
International Groningen.
And what about internships? Because you're now doing your internship, right?
Yeah, I'm currently doing an internship with ABN AMRO. I must preface this by saying I applied to, I don't know, maybe 80 to 100 internships.
What?
Yeah, and I would say
Is it common?
It's a numbers game. That's what
in
my
Groningen
boyfriend
or
told
in
me.
Netherlands?
I mean, I only try in the Netherlands.
You've applied to 80 internships.
Yeah.
And you were rejected.
I mean, not necessarily. Okay, out of those like 80, maybe only like 30-40% actually replied with something. And I got quite a few interviews, quite a few job offers, but like it was a long process, and it is a numbers game. And I mean, I think my CV is like kind of decent, but of course it is competitive out there. Yeah, a lot of ambitious people out there with CVs much better than yours, I'm sure. So I think it's also the Dutch aspect.
Okay, but were you ambitious about them? Be honest. Like, did you, because I know that a lot of internationals, I think that's a common mistake in my perception, that they go to the best Dutch companies, most well-known Dutch companies, and apply there. And of course, the competition there is much higher. Elaborate.
Well, I mean, obviously, they'll get many more people applying with them, and also Dutch people. So yeah, then you have to stand out relatively so much more as an international to be able to grab that internship, because Dutch people also want to work at the big corporates.
Yeah.
So you applied for like a more luxurious segment. Let's not name any names.
I did aim high. But that's also
very good.
Yeah, no, personally, that's also like what I expect from myself. But I did eventually end up getting my first choice internship.
Excellent.
And that paid pretty decently as well. Because most internships, oh my god, they pay like 400 or 500 euros, even if they're like the big name companies. It's insane.
Which is not just for internationals, also for Dutch people.
In internships in general, it's like modern day slavery. But what can you do? It is great experience, and I have no regrets. And I'm very, very happy at ABN AMRO.
And you're doing it now.
Yeah, I'm still doing my internship. I still have like 2 more months left to go. But yeah, I think it also just, for example, like in the middle of applying to all my internships, and I got like some rejection letters. I was like, okay, how can I improve my CV? And at the time I was applying to a lot of like marketing communication jobs. And in my motivation letters, I kept saying like, oh, I'm really good at social media, whatever. And I thought, okay, if I was a recruiter, then like I would like to see that proof, right? That just makes sense. So I just challenged myself for 2 weeks that I would post on TikTok every day. And just see what happens. And I did get a lot of views, like I think 200,000 views in those 2 weeks. And I included that in my motivation letters from then on. And that's when I started getting a lot of interviews and job offers.
That's the whole R&D process within one application. But applying for internships, Marjolein, if you hear this story, can you like highlight some milestone mistakes and some tips?
Yeah. So the numbers that you mentioned, like having applied 80 times, that's something that I hear much more often from internationals in general, regardless of the industry.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is. Exactly because there are quite a lot of internationals doing marketing communication studies in the Netherlands as a whole. And there's just not as many positions. So Dutch people and internationals are competing for a limited amount of marketing communication positions. That's unfortunately what it is.
But that's specific for this sector, for this field.
For this field, but also for a couple of other fields, right? There's relatively to other sectors, there's quite a lot of marketing communication jobs in English in the North and in the Netherlands as a whole. But there are also a relatively large amount of internationals doing marketing communication studies in the Netherlands. So
but I can imagine like a more introverted person that if you don't have so many people whom you talk to, and if you get 80 rejections or 80 no successes, then it can also do a lot to your self-esteem.
Yeah.
But you say that this is normal and it doesn't mean anything. You just have to keep on going.
Yeah, and exactly like what you did is to experiment, to see like, okay, how can I change my cover letter? What can I add in there? And what's going to be like, can I get a different result? The major issue that we hear from a lot of internationals is that they copy paste the same CV and cover letter and send it everywhere. And then they only replace the company name in the cover letter. Yeah, that's going to be...
I was doing that, I must say.
Oh my God.
Guilty.
Well, that's how you get to the 80. Because if I get, so, I mean, making
You were the problem.
I am the problem.
Well, you were also the solution. So. But this is I think one of the number one tips that we give with Make It North is make it specific to the company and make it specific to the job. Even if you don't have a huge amount of experience, there are so many different skills that you can highlight from the experience that you do have, which doesn't even have to be from a job. It can be from a project that you did in university where, you were the group leader. And
I think the study associations, like being an active member, being in committees actually helps a lot. I went to a recruitment day thing and I met this recruiter from Deloitte, and she said, actually, I don't really care about if your GPA is super high. If you did nothing during university.
Sorry, what is GPA?
General point average, like your average grade throughout your bachelor's or just degree in general.
I bought my diploma, apparently.
And yeah, she emphasized that she finds it kind of more important actually to have this kind of experience rather than focusing on getting the best grades.
Yeah, even if it's volunteer or indeed any study association board years, or even like something in the board like ESN, group leader, this and that.
Exactly.
You know that, okay, she can take responsibility. She knows people can act crazy sometimes. She can work with that.
Yeah.
She has people experience that solved a lot. So what else would you say? So make almost like each CV application should be like a separate mini project that you really study the company if you really want to make it, and adjust your motivation letter and sometimes also CV to that. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you will immediately see that you will get more responses from companies, because as a employer, as a recruiter, you can tell immediately when you're getting a copy-paste letter.
Yeah.
And the impression that you get from the candidate is you don't really care about working here.
Yeah.
You put as much effort into this as I'm going to put into rejecting you, right? But if you get a letter and it's clearly well-crafted, well thought out, people feel a personal connection with the company or have like a personal motivation that comes from their extracurriculars or their study that motivates them for that job in particular, that makes a person so much more interesting for the company. Also because clearly you're more motivated to get that job, you're interested in the company. It will also give the impression that you're more likely to stay with them versus you're looking for a job, any job. So you might start here, but in a month you find a better job, you're gone. So they're less likely to give you a chance even to have a conversation with them.
That's true. I think Marjolein and we both have experience with hiring people and scanning these motivation letters. And sometimes when you see it's a copy paste, or I'm sorry, students, but sometimes I know when the internship deadlines are, when you get like 2 weeks before internship and you see somebody who's just desperate, and you were definitely not the first and the second. You were like for like a lot 99 option 99.
And they put a different job title in there than the one that you had out there.
Yeah. And if you are in this if you are in this situation, if this was your company number 99, you don't care, you just want to make it to the deadline, don't tell it to me. Don't tell it to the recruiter. Say, no, I was dying to get a job at your thing. I will make it. I'm so motivated. Don't say like, yeah, actually my deadline is in 2 weeks and I don't want to skip a year because if I will skip a half a year, then I'll have to pay so much. And like, yeah, how is it my problem? Like, why would I care? Like, really make it look like you want this job, everything is for the job, you'll do it, you're motivated, you're right shooting for it. And sometimes you don't have experience, but if you just have this energy, then I think like, ooh, she's gonna put this energy into my project that I don't have time.
Yeah, if you give people enthusiasm and curiosity, you're much more likely to get that back. And that also means that you have to spend more time on each application. So in total, you can send out fewer applications, but the quality of them is going to be so much better and the response rate is just going to be better.
And return on investment also. Yeah. Are you maybe considering or thinking or dreaming about staying in the Netherlands or in the Northern Netherlands or in Groningen after you graduate?
Yeah, well, I'm planning on doing my master's after my internship, and that's a year. And after that, I'm applying for a orientation year. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah. So
we're going to talk more about this.
Yeah, for those who don't know, like non-EU people, you can apply for this if you've graduated from a Dutch like higher education, and basically you can work like anywhere without a work permit for a year.
Or not work and just stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. Because it just depends.
A lot of people just use this time to look for a job. Maybe they don't work, but they at least are legally allowed to stay in the country, right?
Yeah, it's you don't need a work permit in order to be able to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which I think is pretty useful because usually I think the company has to sponsor a visa for you first.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
For non-EU, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll do that year at the very least. In regards to which company, I'm not sure yet. I do
But
really
where
like
territorially? You studied English. How do you say this word?
I don't know what you said.
In terms of territory, territorially, locationally. Like, what do you
I don't think that's a real word.
Anyways,
what area.
that's national. Hey,
Where?
No.
Groningen, Northern Netherlands, Amsterdam.
It really, really depends.
So it is Randstad.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say it depends where the money is.
Okay,
Yeah.
but how do you know where the money is?
It's usually in Randstad.
Okay,
Yeah,
Marjolein,
let me tell.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to hit the table. So the thing is, of course, the Randstad pays better.
what?
But living costs are higher.
Yeah. So
Yes,
in the
yeah.
end, like and especially if you're a starter, I think there's not so much more extra money left at the end of the month because living costs are so much higher there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it makes complete sense. There are more opportunities in the west of the country because
And
there
also
are
for
way more
English
companies
speakers.
there. Yeah, and
But
there are
there's-
way bigger companies there. So
But there's also much more competition
Yeah.
for any given
Yeah.
job.
and
Yeah,
not
for
just from
sure.
inside the Netherlands, but also from outside. Whereas,
Yeah.
you do see that companies in the north are very kind of charmed by internationals who have studied here or who are motivated specifically to stay in the region. Companies are much more open to that group.
Yeah.
Versus to internationals that come from the rest of the country or from outside of the EU
Okay.
who haven't been here yet.
So you do have a privilege, but in general, like
Use that.
We'll utilize it.
Nice.
when you are going to, like, I don't know, Randstad, like, so the center of the Netherlands is a center.
No,
Yeah,
the
but it's
West.
like
Yeah.
it's a center of, like,
In all the
economic
major
center.
cities. Yeah.
I'm not very good with territorial geography. We're feeling that, but anyways, there's much more competition for housing, for jobs, for boyfriends and girlfriends, for parking spots. So it looks like
Or
that's
hospitality. You
Yeah.
stand in line there to get into bars.
into this matcha latte for €8. Salad bars, pokeball. Okay, but so what you're trying to say that it is, if you just look at the salary, it is looking nice in the center of the country.
Of course. Yeah, the salaries look much higher there. Also because whereas the North mostly has SMEs, so smaller, medium-sized enterprises, and a couple of big corporates, the west of the country has way more big international corporations and they just have more jobs, and so also more jobs at management level, for example, and they also pay better.
Are there any sectors that you think are, like, super booming here? Sell the North and Groningen to internationals watching now.
Yeah, so what we see is that a lot of local organizations are investing in particular in the digital related sector. So IT, data science, marketing, and then like numbers based marketing, that kind of stuff. And in health, life science. So we see quite a lot of startups, a lot of international startups.
Health, like doctor, or what kind of health?
Yeah, so life science. So it's a lot of innovation happening in how do we make medical practices better, or medical materials better, or medical processes.
Is it research part, or is it like a nurse?
So for nurses and doctors, psychologists, etc., there's not a lot of opportunities in English because often patients wish to be able to speak their native language. There are a bunch of programs that are helping English-speaking medical professionals get into the field, but learning Dutch is a huge part of that process. Yeah.
When you're about to look for a job, can you draft your plan? And then we're gonna roast it. What would you? You're looking at it, but you're looking for a job, like for a proper career. What would you, as an international, do in steps?
Okay, well, I've learned a lot from my internship AD application days. So I think first, I just want to think about the specific role and industry and also companies. In general, I do think it's good to have like a standard kind of motivation letter that you can like as like the base, and then you can like tweak it. So I'll make sure the standard letter is ready.
Yeah.
Also think about the skills needed in the roles that you desire to be in. For example, I like right now I'm doing a lot of like little like certifications. There's a lot of free ones out there like Google Analytics or things like upskilling in general. If you have time, I recommend doing that, or just stacking your CV, and like just doing anything to make your CV look good is always good. Learning Dutch.
Are you already on it?
Yes, I am. I have a 1,400 something day streak on Duolingo.
Nice.
Every day I'm trying my best, but I do have a goal where by the end of this year I'd like to be somewhat fluent.
Just with Duolingo?
So we'll see. No, I'll force my Dutch friends to like speak to me in Dutch or something.
But you don't go to a
Dutch
course
shows.
or something?
No, not at the moment, but I think I should.
Yeah, I would
at some
recommend
point.
this.
Yeah.
People always say like, oh, you can just learn a language by just hearing it, and if people around you speak it, then you'll learn it eventually. No, that's not the case. I think you just have to go to the course.
I think you need a basic structure first, and then immerse yourself in that language, and eventually it'll click. I think, but yeah, like Dutch, I think does give you a bit of an edge. Like my role right now at ABN AMRO, I only needed English for it. But for example, like when your colleagues in between meetings, like they speak Dutch, and sometimes you feel left out. So it's always good to have that. But yeah, just I think focusing on improving your CV and practicing case studies if needed, things like that.
How would you apply? Where would you look for a job?
Oh, with my internships, I did everything through LinkedIn actually. But if you have like a dream company or specific companies you want to work for, then it's always good to go to their website and go to the vacancies.
Marjolein, could you please share what you
cannot roast this.
One more thing, recruitment days.
A recruitment
They're
days.
really, and I know EBF does this huge 3-day recruitment days event. I went last year. A lot of companies go. And
what is EBF?
The Economics Association for
Economics
the
and
university.
Business Faculty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a Hans student from alumni. So I have all these words from
Apologies. But yeah, recruitment days, I think, help so much because you speak to recruiters and they tell you exactly what they're looking for.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Marjolein, do you have something to add, something to roast, something to compliment?
I wish I could roast it, but no, I can't. I think everything that you're talking about is really good. The combination of seeing where you can upskill and then to focus on the things that you find interesting, right? Because it's you can be like, oh, I want to work here, so I will try and learn all the things that are required for the job. But I think it's really important to focus on what do you think is interesting, because say those skills get you a job and you hate it, that's not going to be very sustainable for you having a fun life. So I think it's important to upskill in the places where you're like, okay, this is where my natural interest leads me. Learning Dutch, not necessarily in order to be able to do a job in Dutch, but to be able to do that, the small talk with your colleagues is so valuable for helping you integrate in the workplace.
100%.
And I think it's really good to go to career days, not just to hear from recruiters, hey, what are you looking for, but also to practice talking.
Networking as well, I think. And you meet people in the same boat as you and they can even give you tips as well. Like I met someone at the last recruitment days and they were like, yeah, you should maybe try Friesland Campina. They actually hire a lot of like internationals and it's a huge company. And yeah.
I think this is a really important point. So I'm going to highlight it again, to not just network upwards. So to not just try and network with those recruiters, but to find other people who are in a similar place that you are, who are looking in a similar industry. Also, because you're not just looking for a job right now, you might be looking for a job again in 2 years when, for example, you've outgrown your job and there's no growth within the company you're at. All people swap jobs, especially, for millennial,
especially Gen Zs.
Especially Gen Z. Yeah. So it's really good to not just think about, I'm networking to get a job right now, but I'm networking to get into this industry. And so, in 2 years, the people that you might have met at this one career event might be working at all different companies and can tell you, hey, it's great to work here, or hey, we have a job that might be suitable for you. So it's it's really gonna help you stay and settle in an industry in the Netherlands or in the North.
And get a LinkedIn. I know that it will start with 16 people, and that's super embarrassing. I remember our economics teacher said, get a LinkedIn, but I was like, oh, I have only 16 people there. I will delete it. Yeah. And I was like, it's super embarrassing. But then you add these people, and sometimes it's a bit awkward because, like, can I shall I add this person?
Yeah,
Shall
and
I
it's
not
like
add?
strangers.
Blah, blah. But then he likes your posts. You see each other after 5 years. You're like, oh, he's working on this project. Oh, that's nice. You app him, or like you're looking for somebody. It's always super handy. But I also think that a common misconception that especially ambitious internationals have is that you only aim for your dream career. And I think at some point you just need to get a job. Like you've tried to work for these super nice companies that everybody's talking about. They're famous all around the world. But at some point, I think you also just have to get a job and start somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like for anything, it's always good to have a safety net, something that you can fall back on.
Just at
And
some
maybe even
point-
the other way around. Like what I usually recommend is don't apply first to your dream job, because the first time you do something, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
So please first apply to a job that's not your dream job, so you can practice writing the letter, sending in the CV, so you can practice doing a job interview. You've never done it before. You're going to mess up. Afterwards, you're going to be like, oh, I wish I'd said that.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that for your dream job.
No, any experience is good experience. And also in general, maybe also a good tip is if you see a job description and maybe you don't fit everything they're looking for, still apply anyway if you're interested, because there's also
But show this energy.
Yeah,
that you're
exactly. And chances are you'll get it. There's a statistic that's something like women only apply to jobs where they know they're 100% qualified for, but men just apply to whatever they want.
Yeah.
And that's why they also get more opportunities.
That not only applies to jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just
and I
go
think
for
that's
it.
also good to know that in the Netherlands, it's really common for companies to put out vacancies for which they know it's unrealistic that they will find somebody who ticks all the boxes. They just want the person who ticks as many boxes as possible. And if you don't apply, you will never know where you were at compared to other candidates and how many of the boxes they
and just
ticked.
show that you're willing to learn and you're interested. And usually that's all they
But
want.
you do want to make sure that when you apply for those jobs and you're missing some of the boxes, to not mention that. So let them figure out the gaps compared to what they're asking for, but really focus on why are you suitable for the job, and emphasize like what experience do you bring along for the boxes that you do tick.
Yeah. And once again, we've already mentioned it today, but I think it's been like a mental, so counterintuitive for me. You've applied, you're right, you've sent your CV, you've applied, you did it, you've had an interview, it felt good. They don't call you. What do?
You call them.
I still,
But come from if you come from a place again of enthusiasm and curiosity instead of from a place of like anger and frustration, you will be met with the same thing. So you want to make sure that whether they don't call you back or if they reject you, also that's an opportunity to ask them like, hey, I'm too bad about this. I would have loved the job. Can you give me tips and tricks, because I'd love to work in this industry or at your company. How could I have improved myself? And people love telling other people how could they improve themselves. Give them an opportunity and they'll go.
And you really have to call or mail. Can't you just view the person's who was interviewing you page on LinkedIn?
Yes, you can.
That's your
but it doesn't do it. But no, again, you get back what you give. So if you call, right, if you show that proactivity, there's a bigger chance that you get that back. If you just send an email, there is a smaller chance that you will get an answer back.
Yeah.
But if you call them and they're like, oh, the right person isn't there, call them the next day.
Yeah.
If you want to know, and if you come from that place of wanting to improve yourself or being really curious, then you can get that back. And of course, it's not going to be that case everywhere, right? Some companies just don't really have their recruitment stuff properly in order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last topic that I'd like to discuss with you guys, Dutch working culture. Is it different? How is it different? How is it hierarchical, not hierarchical, and stuff like this? Were you shocked? Are you still in shock? Because you work.
How are you doing?
Still recovering.
You work in a Dutch company, but also in a pretty classical. I would say it's a bank, so it's quite an established. More.
Yeah. Well, I must say I have not worked a proper corporate job in Malaysia. So,
but you still know the drill.
Yeah,
from
no,
your
but
parents.
I still kind of vaguely know the ins and outs. One thing though, I do work in IT, and within IT, a very common thing is the agile way of working. So kind of like a flat hierarchy. So I think my experience will be kind of different for someone that's like, I don't know, going to marketing where you have the traditional like manager that tells you what to do and you just do it. So in Agile, we just, with the product owner, we decide together like what I want to do. I have full control of everything in my internship. I don't really have a typical manager to tell me what to do. So in that sense, I was very surprised because I didn't even know that was a thing actually until I started working at ABN.
How would it be? Can you imagine how it could be in Malaysia?
In Malaysia,
Same job.
I know I have a friend that also works at a bank in Malaysia. Granted, it's not IT. I think he's in the more finance accounting role. He doesn't get paid very much because it was kind of an entry-level role, but my God, he works very long hours. I think maybe like 7 until like, I don't know, 10 at night. It's hard. I think that's the main cultural difference. I think in the Netherlands, they're very good at the work-life balance, and there's a huge emphasis on that. I'm from Southeast Asia, and like I grew up with workaholic parents. My father wakes up at 8 every morning, goes to work until midnight at night, and it's like that every day, and very rarely goes on holiday. So I kind of grew up with that kind of work ethic and mentality. And here my colleagues are always like, if you don't feel well, just take the day off, like take it slow, make sure you're okay. Yeah. And in my head, I'm like, it's just an office job when we're working for like 7-8 hours. Like, it's not that hard, but it's really, really nice.
Yeah, work and life balance is good. If you're amazing. Working at a company, if you're a freelancer, we're going to make another episode about that. But we've been there, done this. Now we have proper jobs and we enjoy these frappuccinos for 5 years. No, but that's really, really true. I think I also hear a lot from a lot of German people. You would think that it's right across the border, but they're like, no, especially the entry positions, you're expected to work 30% extra just to prove yourself and stay over hours and just, it's a norm. It's not like something when you have a deadline. I think we also have it. When you have a deadline, of course, you will make it sure that it's just done and not like, oh, it's 5 hours. Okay, 5.
I mean, in some companies and some people do say it's 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
But that is also acceptable in many companies. I think it's in the Netherlands, you also don't necessarily have like one company culture. Like you see a very different culture in startups versus in more corporates versus in
it depends on
SME.
the industry as well, because like there's like accountants of like tax season or something like there's like seasons and like busy seasons. There's chiller days and crazier days.
But there also communication is also very different in my personal experience, because I think like you can like criticize your boss. I don't think would it be possible in Malaysia?
Oh God,
give negative feedback.
Never do that. Oh my God. Don't even think about that.
No.
But have you criticized your job or your boss yet?
Not criticized. I was saying not criticized.
I mean, I've given like constructive feedback. Yes.
How did it feel the first time?
It did feel like kind of weird, but my team is also just a group of really lovely women that have made me feel super comfortable. So, I've gotten really comfortable with them. So it didn't feel too bad, but I would never do it in Malaysia. Yeah. Or just, I think in Asian culture, just it's very hierarchical.
I think if you can generalize, then I think Asians indeed, and also if I can speak for the whole Eastern Europe, that's also way less common. Every time you do it, you can do it, but then you have to really calculate what will it cost you. Yeah. Especially in front of everyone. Like there's a difference. Like, do I tell it to you in person as to my boss?
But in general,
everyone,
that's disrespectful, right? To criticize someone in front of everybody. Don't do that in general. I think maybe
even if it's even if it's a bit constructive, still. It's not natural to me. And also what I really hate about Dutch working culture and the Marjolein,
I'll soak it up. I'm Dutch. It's
fine. That there is never like a pause. If you have a meeting with multiple people, it's never then there is silence and you can speak. You always have to jump into somebody's words, and then I feel that's disrespectful. But that's completely normal. You have
so
to interrupt.
true.
You have to interrupt, else you'll just not get your point. They will never get to your point. They're like, okay, it's 5 o'clock, so bye. And you really have to get used to.
I didn't know that was like a Dutch thing, because I have experienced
so
that
Dutch.
actually. So that's, I do keep quiet most of the time because I'm like, oh, there's no like, you know, like gateway for me to jump in.
Yeah.
No,
But,
you have
oh,
to.
wow, that's a thing.
But
Okay.
that's definitely a Dutch thing,
Yeah.
because in a lot of
Yeah.
other cultures, it is like you wait to make sure that the other person has finished speaking,
Yeah.
and that's why you have that little bit of quiet.
I've been waiting for
Dutch
12
people don't
years.
do it.
It will not happen.
One day.
Yeah.
No, it
you
won't
just have
happen.
to like jump. But I'm thinking, yeah, but I don't know what she wants to finish with. Maybe it's important. No, you have to attack. You have to grasp. If you want to get your point across, just go for
That's
it.
so. I actually, not to be all like communication science nerdy, but we had a
Do it.
conversation analysis course where there was a chapter on turn taking and how it's like different within cultures. In some cultures, there is kind of a pause in between each
Yeah.
turn taking, and apparently, depending on your culture, you either interpret it as like they're taking time, like your time to process what you said and to give an insightful answer. And some cultures interpret it as like, are you dumb?
Yeah, you don't know what to
hilarious.
say, or
Yeah.
or it's like, oh, Dutch people can't stand silence.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, no, I can't deal with the silence. Let's immediately talk over it, even if I have nothing to say.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
better to say nothing, speaking
Yeah.
out loud, than to be quiet.
Else the weather talk will start, and you don't want this.
Oh my God, that's the other thing in the corporate world. You have the same conversation every time. It's
I'm
like,
sorry. We just the
every
weather
day.
is fascinating.
yeah,
It's
I guess.
raining. How was
Yeah.
your weekend? It's raining.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do for holiday? Depending where you're at, or what did you do
And-
for your previous
yeah.
holiday, or what you're gonna
And
do?
what like stage of the week you're in. If it's Friday, everyone always is like, it's the weekend soon. Friday,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
are we gonna do?
Yeah. But imagine being able to do that in Dutch. You get integrated so fast.
Yeah.
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 So what can we I think we shared so much information. For us, it just like we exchanged some stuff, and there were some surprising things. Like I know that you have to call, but 80, how many 80
Yeah, like
applications?
around
That
something.
really-
I lost count. I don't know if it's
That really
yeah.
shocked me. And still that you have to be so proactive. That feels counterintuitive if I put myself in the shoes of an average internationals that I've been talking to, but you have to do it. Can we just once again summarize, what do you think, in your opinion, were the most important tips, tricks, sources, whatever that we discussed today? What do we want as a take, like an executive summary, or like a top 3, top 5?
Okay. Well, I think the first thing is absolutely be proactive. Like, you really create your own opportunities. My freelance job at Ukrant, for example, that wasn't like a position. It was created for me. I had actually applied for a columnist position that I saw, because I thought, why not? I was like, I could do this. And I had an interview with the chief editor, and I spoke about my TikTok, and they were like, oh, actually, we've been toying with the idea of starting a food review series at Ukrant for a while, but we just like, it hasn't come to fruition, or we haven't found someone. I don't know what it
Who
was.
likes to eat?
Exactly. And so, that role was created for me just because, and honestly, it suits me way better than the original position I applied for.
So look for opportunities, but also create your own opportunities.
Yeah,
Ask a question. Say like, I really would like to do this. I really like your restaurant, but your social media could be better. I'm obsessed with social media. Could I try to do something? So you really just go for it. Yeah. What else?
Absolutely.
Maybe you can go now.
Yeah. Can I also bring in something that's like less vibey?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to note that there isn't a job for every international. There are, some fields in which we just don't have a lot of jobs in English, and there are an overwhelming amount of people who want to be able to do that job in English. For example, in law, there just aren't that many positions, especially not in the North. So it's also kind of, yes, create opportunities, but also be kind of realistic and research the industry in the Netherlands and in the place in the Netherlands where you want to work, and see to what extent are there opportunities for me here. And if there aren't, how big is the chance that I'll be able to make one? And that's not something that you can easily find, or like, it's not like natural knowledge that comes to you. So ask people who are in the industry, approach people through LinkedIn who are doing the job that you would want to do.
And not when
literally
you're looking for a job, but before, while you're still studying.
Exactly. Yeah. And who are either working at a company that you'd love to work at, or who do a specific job that you're like, I see myself in that job. And ask, hey, I would love to work in this industry after I graduate. Could we have a call, or do you have time for a coffee? I'd love to ask you about your experiences in this industry. And then you can find, is there a place for me with the skills I have? Is it possible for me to get the extra skills I need to be ordered to get that place? Or is it just not possible? And in some industries, some jobs, there are just so few opportunities that you have to be exceptional compared to the rest of the people who are also applying for the same position. So,
but in some industries or sectors, there are plenty of jobs.
There are plenty of jobs, but I just think it's good not to say like blanket statements. There are opportunities for you if you want it badly enough.
But where are the opportunities? Where people are hungry for internationals?
Yeah, so the industries that I mentioned before, we see a lot. So in tech and or in IT related fields, so data, etc. In energy and in life science. And for the rest, really just look at Make It in the North, because there you see specific jobs that are already open to internationals. So that gives you a good idea of like, okay, these are the jobs for internationals. Now, I expect that these will only grow. So more jobs in those types of industries, in research, in R&D, you have a lot. So in those industries for sure, and in other industries, try and make those opportunities, but it will not be super easy, and it won't work every time you try.
Yeah.
But never hurts to.
Yeah. Always try. Yeah. And bring that enthusiasm and really go for what you're passionate about, because if you manage to make an opportunity in a company or a job or an industry that you don't actually want to work at, that's not really sustainable either.
Yeah. Do you have something more to add, some tip-wise?
Yeah, well, this might be, this is specific to, I think, University of Groningen students, but there's something called the career services, which is super, super helpful if you're kind of in that stage to look for jobs. And I think even after you graduate, you can still like utilize their services for free, like for maybe 6 months after you graduate or a year. But they do so many things, from workshops on how to improve your CV, how to improve your LinkedIn, your motivation letter. You can even kind of request, if you got a job offer, to kind of have like a fake interview with them where they will act as a recruiter and you kind of practice your interview. They even do photo shoots for your like professional LinkedIn photo. So yeah, I think definitely check out the career services at RUG, because yeah, I think it's super, super helpful for someone just starting out, and it's for free.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something else to add, or that's...
Yeah, so for other people who are now like, but I'm not at the University of Groningen, Make It in the North, the project also offers a bunch of free services, and we do CV critiques and job hunt advice. So based on your CV and the types of jobs that you say you're looking for, we're going to sit down and we're going to look at what are the opportunities for you in the North. Yeah, for free. And give recommendations for where you could apply, or what skills you might be missing, or people that you should talk to basically find out more industry-specific information. And we organize information events, both for internationals and for companies who are interested in hiring internationals, about how do I start networking when I don't know anyone? How do I start looking for a job? And we do career events as well. We both organize career events where we make sure that we match companies that say we're open to internationals, you don't need to speak Dutch to start working here, with internationals, often in a specific industry. But what we also do is there's quite a lot of events in Dutch, where there's a lot of companies there. And what we do is we see when there's like a Dutch job fair, we ask the organizers, hey, can you ask those companies which of them hire internationals? And then we put flags on the stands of the companies that hire internationals. Oh. So you can go to the events yourself and then see, here I can have a conversation that can lead somewhere. Yeah. But I will say, if you want to work in the Netherlands, it's good to talk to as many companies as possible, just so you get a better scope of like what's out there, and to practice those type of conversations. So don't only pursue opportunities and conversations because there is a job behind it. Also just see it as an opportunity to practice networking and to actually expand your network for when maybe in 5 years you do speak enough Dutch to be able to work there.
Yeah. I think that was super helpful, and it will be super helpful for whomever is watching it. So for a student who just is about to come to Groningen, for somebody who's studying and is considering, or for somebody who's maybe looking at the moment or is desperate at the moment, because when you're looking for a job, you can go in this dip of like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe 70 or 80 job applications, that's not for me. But I think also the mentality that you really have to apply is more, it's not like one shot, one opportunity. Your dream job is there and you have to get it or not get it, but it's much more a mosaic of different skills that you can gain. Maybe some money to make, maybe a job opportunity, maybe volunteer opportunity, maybe to try to just for half a year get this in your CV, and really try to combine as many of these factors as possible. And eventually you will get there, but maybe not from the first moment, and just keep on going. It's really a journey, and it's really like a learning thing. Every mispronounced word in Dutch, every awkward job interview, every weird rejection interaction that you call for one job and they were looking for somebody else, it all counts and it all builds up in your experience. So just go for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.